Good morning. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. I'm going to make sure that I'm live before I get started. Are we live? Are we live? Let's see here. Come on in the room. Come on in the room, everyone. We are live. Hey, we are live. We're going to take a moment and just share. You are on my page as well as the Diplomat Center, and I've got something to say today. That's Dr. Thicklin's phone, everyone. I want you to take a moment and share for me. This is probably the first time that I've gone live in our podcast room. So I'm excited about this. There's a plug for the podcast room and everything that's happening. Those of you who can see me right now, do me a favor and share this out to everyone you know. We're going to be taking a moment talking about when home hurts, the silence behind the violence. And I hope I said that right. It's very, very important. It's very, very important for you to share this. Share this live right now.
I'm trying. Okay, I'm trying to share.
All right, everyone. So you are here with me today. And as you know, there's been a lot of things that's been going on in our community. And today I felt the need to take a moment to address some things, to talk about some things that are going on in our world, in our community, in our state, in our families, And forgive me, I'm a little bit, new at this, but it's all good. Today, Dr. Thicklin and I, we're together, and we're going to be talking about domestic violence, suicide, those kinds of things. Now, I want to preface everything by saying I'm not here to sensationalize tragedy. This is not our purpose for being here. We're here because we know that our community is hurting, and we're seeing husbands killing wives. We're seeing family members being killed. We're seeing people taking their own lives. And there's a heightened level of violence that's around the United States of America, not just here locally. And these are not isolated incidents. They're symptoms of a deeper pain and unresolved trauma, spiritual brokenness. We are both pastors. We see that. Family breakdown and just an overall emotional crisis. So it's been a conversation that we've been having from since even a lot of activity that's been going on.
Yes. It's important that they understand that literally we've been planning to do these things even before we start seeing the prevalence and the proliferation of these things happening. And with them happening so much, we understand that people oftentimes are driven by headlines. Things are popular
Right.
for the moment, and we don't want this to be just a moment. We want this to be a movement of awareness and uprising and empowerment so that we really become not only aware of domestic violence and its devastating impact, but also what is it that we all can do, because nothing changes until we all get involved.
It's true. And to know too, you guys, that we can't we only have a few minutes with these things today. So we're not going to it's not like we can get so deep with it, but we can talk about the indicators.
Right.
We could talk about how these things occur, and then we can also talk about some things that you can do. And so, I want to just start by talking about the root of these things. We see even up to a few months ago, a husband killing his wife. And after he kills her, he literally goes downstairs and he sleeps. We see uh, mass killings that have taken place recently. And I know that we've got to take these things on their own merit. We can't just put a blanket across everything. But what I do want us to talk about, Dr. Thicklin, and I like how you mentioned that we've been talking about this for quite some time.
Right.
Night phone calls, morning phone calls, just
Right.
random conversations because they're a part of all of our hearts.
Yeah.
It's not just me and you.
No.
Our community is suffering, and a lot of them are suffering in silence because they're trying to figure out what in the world is going on. I want you to talk to that for a second, Kate.
Well, you're exactly right. My mantra for the last 35 years has been our community are torn by violence, our families are destroyed by violence,
Yeah,
our faith is tested by violence.
yeah.
So it's incumbent upon us to respond to the violence. And it's so important because the fact what we're seeing is not new. It's just that it's been exposed even more. And it is becoming more
Why?
proliferation
Why do you
of
think
it.
that is?
I think it is because it is a sign of what's happening in our society. We're living a day and time that we have to understand everything is interconnected. People are suffering in pain. People are suffering from conditions. People are responding to things. A lot of this is, if you would, untreated trauma, things that
Yeah,
people have never gotten over or conquered or learned to deal with. And
yeah.
so these things begin to surface. Now, it doesn't justify what happens, but it gives us an explanation of why these things are happening. And so when we say this, keep in mind that we know that 1 in 4 women in their lifetime are experiencing domestic violence or intimate partner violence. 1 in 9 men
Mm.
experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime as well,
So 1 in 4 women
and 1 in 9
and
men.
1 in 9 men.
Exactly.
Wow.
And the thing about it, I think that we have to resist the urge. Oftentimes, there are those that will hear us talk a lot about victimization, especially of women, and they'll go, "What about men? What about men?" It's
Right.
not that we're ignoring men being victims of domestic violence, but overwhelmingly, we know that domestic and sexual violence impact women at a greater level. And the
Right.
thing about it is that domestic violence, though we think of it as happening at home, it doesn't just stay home.
Yeah.
We see domestic violence being played out in the workplace because domestic violence came to work. We see it played out even in the church because domestic violence came to church. We see it played out in the
Yeah. Yeah.
school
Yeah.
because it came to school. And I say that, Dr. Collmore, because 54% of mass shootings in the United States of America had an underlying connection to domestic violence.
Mm. So you're saying with a woman and her partner
Mhm.
or a man and his wife, whatever
Yeah,
the case may be, these mass shootings are coming
54%
from
of
out of 54%.
54%.
That's
We've
more
seen
than
it happen.
half.
Yes. And so we see the mass shooting happening. A few years ago, there was a mass shooting at a church there in Sutherland, Texas. Well, it happened during church service, but the bottom line, it was connected to domestic violence. And so it really tells us that's another reason why the faith community must become better equipped in understanding the dynamics of it. And that, quite frankly, my life mission is to reshape the narrative, reframe the narrative, and to empower. What I mean, domestic violence, let's get it very serious. It's not a woman's issue.
Right.
It's not a
Right.
it's not a woman's issue. It's not a man's issue. It's a societal issue.
Got it.
It is a spiritual issue. And because of that, it requires all of us. It requires understanding how do we take part in it as
Mhm.
far as the solution.
Can I ask a question real
Sure.
quick? So growing up,
Mhm.
we were always taught, and especially when you're out of church or
Right.
in church and those kind of, stay out of people's business.
Mhm.
What happens in their home happens in their home. What happens behind closed doors. Why is now domestic violence such an issue where do we need to be concerned about what's going on behind people's homes or in their homes? What is that? What do you say to those kinds of things? Is that our business?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
why?
One of my pages is on social media is domestic violence. It is your business. Why? Because I think we just said it. Because domestic violence don't always stay home. It manifests in relationships. It manifests in the schoolhouse. The little kid who's now not in class today because the fact mommy was killed in domestic violence, it impacts every one of his classmates. The little kid, unfortunately, who's no longer at his desk because he was killed as part of a domestic violence suicide or formalicide. Once again, it didn't stay home. Mass shootings or mass murders that happens, and those are people that are killed who are not related to those individuals, but they are all victims of the symptoms and the action of domestic violence. And then let's go beyond that. The impact that domestic violence have on us economically, financially, the impact that it has on us psychologically. Because keep in mind, domestic violence, really, the tenets of domestic violence is a learned behavior. It's learned. It becomes cultural norms. And so when I speak to a blanket group, I'm talking about the fact, keep in mind, we learned this from somewhere.
Right.
We learn through observation. We learn through participation. We learn through being exposed to these things. And if we never check it, and keep in mind that domestic violence hurts deeply. And there are people that may seemingly mask it very well because they keep going. And a lot of times they keep going because of the shame. I mean, no one goes around advertising that, I'm a victim of domestic violence, but it happens. And that's where it becomes dangerous, because the longer we remain silent in domestic violence, all we are doing is really perpetuate it.
Right. I want to back up a little bit
Sure.
because we're talking about this whole idea of domestic violence, but the root of it. I noticed that you said that domestic violence impact our economy, all of those things, and I get that. But let's back up a little bit. What is the root of domestic violence? Does that come from maybe husband, wife losing their job, not having self-esteem? What is the root behind these things? We're seeing manifestations of something going on. But in your opinion, statistic wise or what have you, where is this coming from? What is it coming from?
So let me frame this in both a real meaning, real definition, both being part of the clergy. Domestic violence is one of the most immediate signs of a fallen world. The first domestic violence ever committed, Cain killed his brother Abel.
Cain killed his brother Abel.
Why? There was a jealousy there, and there was a need for what? Position. Deep in the heart of domestic violence is the need of power and control.
Got it.
Power and control. Sometimes we feel that we need power control because we feel that we ourselves are being made insignificant, or we're being made insufficient.
But that's more like a low self-esteem issue,
Okay.
right?
Well,
Low
yes, again.
self-worth.
Yeah, but it manifests in itself. You ever seen people who get pleasure of putting other people down in order to lift themselves up?
Yeah.
Once again, here are symptoms, and this is one of the reasons why domestic violence become so complex and perplexed. People really would like to just roll out a list and say, well, if I see this, then this is definitely domestic violence. I'm going to say that is this, that, and some more. Because the fact we see the need to control, the possessiveness, we see the need to dominate, the need to put people down. Domestic violence itself is such a large thing. And although what makes the headlines is things like the death, the homicide.
Right. They don't talk about the root. They don't talk about the root of it.
They don't talk about the root. They oftentimes dismiss and minimize emotional and psychological and mental abuse. Because oftentimes, long before a victim is ever beaten up, they're beaten down. They're beaten down by words. They're beaten down by action. They're beaten down by manipulation. They're beaten down by control. And people use power in many different ways. People use title to control with power.
But how do you identify that kind of person that potentially did not get what they needed in life, or maybe feel like they're less than and they feel the need to beat someone down? I guess my question is, what are some of the signs of this?
Let's go back and say this. Domestic violence is really a pattern of behavior. It's a pattern of behavior where a person seeks to.
Is it a certain economic class?
No, it crosses all social economic class. As a matter of fact, one of the things we have to understand is that sometimes the richer you are, the more self sufficient you are, the more the
Mm,
perpetrator is able to hide domestic violence. Yet it's still the victim still suffers behind domestic violence. And a lot of time when you've been elevated to a point where now you feel that you're this elite or you
gotta
are in
cover.
this position, the
Mhm.
victim feels a need to hide
Right,
their
right,
control, their shame there because of fear of retaliation, the fear of being judged.
right.
Well, surely you shouldn't be in this situation. I mean, you're smart. You are a Harvard grad. And I need you to understand that the research shows us, even among women, and particularly Black women, that even educated Black women suffer at the hands of domestic violence even more so than their uneducated counterpart, or just as much.
Wow.
So it's not a matter of just simply saying intelligence, it's a matter of recognizing these signs, these things. And when you say, what are those signs? Once again, uh, possessiveness, jealousy, the push for power and control.
And
And,
sometimes it's not in loudness.
you know,
It could be in the way a person moves.
yeah, it's in the way they
You know?
move.
Yeah.
You know,
Why is it?
before you know it, all of a sudden you're isolated from friends and family,
Yeah,
and the things that was norm for you, all of a sudden,
that's
and I
good.
should say all of a sudden because it's gradually happened.
That's good.
Every time you now have things to do that you would normally do, no, I need you to do this.
You start disconnecting
You
from it.
start disconnecting from
Yeah.
that village, from that support
Yeah,
system.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so now the isolation starts there. Now you are, and oftentimes the individual reinforces that by saying, listen here, you belong to me now. That is your past life. And so all of these things start happening. One of the things that happened very early on is what we refer to as love bombing. That
Love bombing.
love bombing, okay?
Love bombing. That's interesting.
Bombing.
Wow.
Remember back in the day, because since we all haven't been saved all our lives, there was a song by Gap Band that said, "You dropped the bomb on me,
Yeah.
baby."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so love bombing is oftentimes what we see where this individual is just they love bomb you. They over inundate you with love and
But he loves
perfection.
me. He's just showing me. I've been waiting for this. And I'm saying this is how
Absolutely.
we would say, I've been waiting for this time,
My
this
whole
moment,
life.
especially as a female, when you're
Right.
in a status position.
Right.
There's men who are intimidated sometimes by you, or even
Right.
vice versa. So now you finally, that person, you feel like you found that person. And so you say it's love bombing. So how do you know the difference between the two?
Once again,
Between whether someone's love bombing you versus loving you.
because you begin to see the signs behind the scene. In other words, what is demonstrated publicly is not what's being demonstrated behind closed doors.
Got it. So they're love bombing you out in the public, but behind the scenes, there's something else going on.
Yeah, but even initially, the love bombing starts outwardly because the lavish dinners, the lavish things that we do, the lavish. So I'm almost establishing a presence.
But
that
isn't
you're-
isn't a good man supposed to take me to a good restaurant and
Mhm.
make me feel like something? I mean, I'm just stating the obvious.
Yeah, and all that sounds good, and all that is good. But when we begin to see the patterns of behavior change, once again, the control,
Got it. So it happens over
the
time.
jealousy, uh, beginning to no, I don't want you being around these individuals any longer. Uh, Now saying to you, let's go back to that successful woman or whoever, I don't want you to work anymore. Now, it depends on who we're talking to. That may sound like great. You're ready to
Right.
brag to your friends and say,
Right.
"Oh, I don't have to work. He don't want me to work. He's
Right.
he's taking care of everything," and it sounds great until you realize that here it is. This person begin to gain more and more control. You'll be amazed at the amount of victims that even are people in prominent position that literally are broke. Not
Mm.
because they didn't have money, but because now that person is controlling
The money.
the finances. And so how does that show up? That may show up. This may be your girlfriend or someone that you're close to. And you guys have been used to going out together every so, y'all go out and have your girl dates and things.
Mhm.
And you start seeing them begin to say, well, I can't make it this time.
Right.
I can't make it.
Yeah,
And
that
more
would
and
be an
more-
indicator for
right.
me.
More and more they can't make it. And
Yeah.
then when they do show up, the same person that normally would be paying for their own way go, well, you got me this time
Yeah.
and you got me
Okay.
next time.
Those are
And
some of the
you,
signs.
you got me next time
Got
because
it.
that person now
So
is
what do
not
you
able to.
so then, and forgive me for just jumping ahead, but I know this is such a deep subject. I guess my question to you on that would be, so you're on the other side seeing someone,
Mhm,
seeing your friend decline in her social, you
mhm,
know, um, her social ability
mhm.
and those kinds of things. So, how do you address something like that? Or what do you do when you start seeing that?
That's a real good question because that's one of the questions that should be, what do we do when we observe it? And what should we do once it is even disclosed? When a person tells you
Right.
that I am in a situation. I
And they
mean,
may not even say it to you like that. They might even say, well, so and so, he gets a little bit,
right.
when I'm around, or when I'm not there, he loves me so possessive. Yeah. How do you?
I think you have a very delicate conversation. You ask questions like, so how does that make you feel?
That's good.
You know, so
That's good.
do you feel safe in that situation?
Mm,
How often does that happen? You
mm,
ask questions because at the end of the day, it is hard oftentimes for a person who's experiencing domestic violence to come forth. The degree of shame that they feel,
right. Of course.
uh, oftentimes they've been threatened, especially when it's escalated to a point. They've been threatened. Sometimes not only have they been threatened, they've been threatened what will happen to them if they leave. And that's always a question that people ask. Why do they stay in it?
Mhm.
And although people mean well, but what a terrible question.
Yeah.
But I will give you an answer. But let me preface it by this. They commit any type of crime by staying.
Right.
The
Right.
perpetrator is committing every crime by abusing.
Right.
And
Right.
so when we say, why do they stay for a number of reasons. Because you got to understand domestic
So
violence,
it's a breakdown in
yeah,
your esteem.
yeah. I mean, all of
Yeah.
this eventually is breaking you down like a number two pencil.
Right.
You're being broken into fragments, into pieces. And keep in mind that sometimes just trying to stay afloat. And here's the thing to kind of answer, why do they stay? And we hear this a lot. Domestic violence is not always something happening constantly.
Mhm.
Every day is happening.
Right.
No, oftentimes abusive behavior is intermittent. We're seeing it happen. And the problem is that, especially for people that may be people of faith and hope, that intermittent piece, when they are being very good, when the perpetrator is treating you nice and all that, it breeds this hope inside of you.
To think that
Yeah,
everything is going to be
it's
better
going to
than to get
better
right.
inside of it, but it always keep resorting back to the same thing. This is the tough part. The tough part is that. The other part why that is also hard is because the fact oftentimes a person that built a life with this
Of
individual,
course. Right. Right.
it's so not so easy to leave. You got finances tied up, you got properties tied up, you've got children tied up, you've got all these things, and you're in a position that you just can't up and leave. It is a time. So that's why it's so to reach out to services that are there. We talk about the fact there is a domestic violence hotline nationally. 1-800
Hold 1-800
7
99
7233.
7233.
1-800-799 safe.
1-800-799 say. And for those of you who may have just jumped on, Dr. Thicklin and I, we've been talking about the increasing violence that's been going on in our community, and we've been talking about maybe, and we've just begun to see it on the rise. And so we felt like we needed to take a few moments. I know I felt like too that I needed to take a few moments, and we needed to just come out and just talk about some of these root cause. What's going on, y'all? What is going on? And so while we can't answer all questions in the limited time that we have, we can certainly start a conversation. We can certainly address some things that I believe are completely red flags. This is what we about. So I want to take a moment and share this. And I want you to take a moment and just listen to some of the things that we are talking about. Now, I want to say this. I'm a pastor, you're a pastor. Okay? We're in that arena, we're in that space. How do you feel that the church, as it was, have been that kinds of situations? I know growing up, uh, most of the words were, pray about it, stay and pray and stay. What say ye?
I'm going to be quite honest and let me disclose this. Though I've been a pastor and been in ministry 40 years, I've addressed the issue of domestic violence for about 35 years. On
It's almost a lifetime.
national, state level, we've written to it. So I won't know if it's prefaced out of an emotion. It is prefaced out of much study, research, observation, being on the other side, listening to family members, walking through with victims. Your question was, in what church been to hear this, those of you that are watching, because this isn't an indictment. It is a call to action. The church is the most uniquely positioned entity in our society to be able to address this issue. Uniquely positioned. Well, why do I say that? Because the church is the only institution where you will find the family will come. Children go to school, parents go to work, but the family comes to church.
Right. And in some cases, the children go to the school that the church has. The female is in women's ministry, the male, know.
But my point being this is that it's the one place that the family could get the same message. So let me say this. The church has not been as effective as it should be. And I don't think out of negligence, but more or less out of ignorance, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to treat it. Now, there are those that have dealt with that. You ask yourself the question, how many messages in your lifetime that you've heard preached about domestic violence in your church? How many times have we really unpacked this? Domestic violence is a very complex subject matter. And the thing about it, it has nothing to do with status. And I think one of the reasons that I've discovered inside of research is that oftentimes we become concerned about the reputation of the church. If someone brings to us about domestic violence, especially if that domestic violence is being perpetrated by a person who may be in position, a title. I've
like
counseled,
a pastor.
I've been inside
deacon.
of it. Yeah. No one is exempted. That's the crazy thing about domestic violence. You don't get exempted because you have a title.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't,
in fact,
you don't become exempted because you have.
It covers you more. It may cover you more, but at the same time, it gives you the ability to propagate what it is that you're trying to do as well.
Exactly.
Which is scary.
It's a very scary thing. Why? Because what we're seeing is that when we use our title and position, and we use it to silence victims or to dismiss their pain or their abuse, we are hurting not only that victim, we're hurting everyone. Because the church is a safe place. It should be a sacred place. And that's where we come. And I'm saying, pastors, understand. I understand this. There's not much domestic violence and theological training. Seminaries. Very few that you have. I could name some universities that have specialized in making sure that it's there, but very few. We as pastors or leaders, you're trained to preach, you're trained to pray, you're trained to shepherd, you're trained to do those things. But very little have been trained to understand trauma-informed care, understanding the dynamics of what happens that contributes to an individual that may commit domestic violence. What we do know, though, from research, despite all of that, In the time of trouble and crisis, people, including victims of domestic violence,
Come to the
are
church.
more likely to come to their faith
Yeah,
leaders before
yeah.
they go to
It's true.
police, before they go to therapy or counselors, which puts us in a vulnerable position. Because what happens when they come and we don't know
We don't know
what to say to them?
Right. I say in our Bible school that we have that one of the least places that you would find that would know how to handle conflict and be able to help resolve it.
Right,
Unfortunately, as a church, not because we don't care,
right.
it's just because we really don't know. You understand what I'm
No,
saying?
and we
So,
don't know.
yeah,
And one of the things that I like to say that is so very important is that that is the reason why we've got to be open to training. We got to be open to empowerment. I have
yeah,
produced trainings year after year after year. We've done a lot, and but more on the road than we do even locally.
yeah.
And we got to understand the fact that this is important.
Well, especially for now. Look at what is going on around us. I don't think I have seen so many. Maybe I haven't paid attention to it in times past. I don't know. I feel like I'm quite aware of things, but you're talking about a vice mayor that was just completely destroyed by her husband. The vice, what is it? Am I saying these right?
You're
The
talking
names
about
right?
the lieutenant governor,
The
former
lieutenant
lieutenant
governor
of
up there
Virginia.
killed his wife. The children survived, but then you've got Louisiana, where this husband he kills not only his wife but 8 other children, only for the police to come and kill him.
Yeah,
Listen, this is and a pastor up in North Carolina, South
right.
Carolina, husband killed her. Then I just saw a husband that killed his stepdaughter because she said to say excuse me before you come around. I mean,
Well,
and she was praying
mhm.
for her stepdaughter while she was bleeding. And he told her to shut up. So it tells me these people were in church. Some of them were they were there.
Yes.
So where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong?
Where we've gone wrong is simply we have not understood it or we have minimized it. And let me say this in a limited time that we have
Yeah.
is that in the case there in Louisiana, there what we saw happening there, the wife did live, but he killed 7 of his own kids
Okay.
and one of the kid's cousins, and
Wow.
he did shoot his wife and the other mother, one kid, and they are clinging on to life. What we're seeing is this, and we'll come back for part 2. We'll have other guests
Yeah,
with
of
us.
course.
Is that we're seeing what we call familicide happening in that case, where the person,
Familicide.
yeah, so they not only kill the partner, but they kill family members and others as well.
Familicide. Family suicide.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then
family.
you'll see in this case he was killed afterwards by law enforcement.
Mhm.
These are all symptoms of what have happened that have come to this point. Nothing to justify it, but I'm saying there are signs that are there.
Right.
And so I want to encourage everyone that as you're listening, understand that there's help for domestic violence. There's help for even mental health crisis and suicide. The mental health number 988, right? 988 is that number there. And
988. So
yeah,
you just dial 988, and
absolutely.
that is for mental health.
Yes.
Okay. Mental health.
Yeah.
I want to say this though, and I want y'all to make sure you write these numbers down. It's important. We have not gotten a chance to really touch on this, but I want before we get off to at least touch on suicide.
Mhm.
Touch on suicide. Now, I think that's important because when we're dealing in heightened um, temperatures in terms of, economics, people having mental health crises, family issues, and these kinds of things, um, there are people who are out there that are saying, look, I'm feeling hopeless at this point.
Mhm.
Um, and being a Christian, born, bred, raised in the church, the first thing they tell you, that's the last thing that you're supposed to be thinking of. But I want to speak to the elephant in the room because there are people that feel that that may be their only way out.
Yeah.
They may feel that that might be the only answer. My concern with these kinds of things, because I've seen it around me and I've seen it in our community, I've had people come to me and say, you know, what is this? I'm confused. I'm confused, especially when believers have done it or have thought about that. Now, I do want to say this. Um, my heart is this. I don't want this cannot be the narrative for our community. This cannot be the narrative for how we answer things that go on with us. It cannot be the narrative. We can't make it or enable it to say, this is okay. Let's talk
No.
about that for a few moments.
I only have a very few moments to talk about it. So
Absolutely.
let me say this to you. It's three things. Understand these are all symptoms of a greater pain.
Absolutely.
The greater pain oftentimes is the pain of depression, hopelessness,
Right.
the sense of
Of course.
helplessness, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like there isn't an answer. Oftentimes, what I like to say, untreated trauma, untreated pain. And so, one of the things that we have to understand is that we have to begin to deal with some of the stigmatization that comes around admitting that I have something going on with me. It's okay to not be okay. It is
It
okay to
is
admit
okay.
that I'm not okay,
It's okay to not
because
be
the
okay.
game is not to be perfected. It's
Right.
not about being perfection. It is about addressing a pain that is there.
Absolutely.
When a person chooses to go that route, they oftentimes feel like the world is over. There is no hope.
Mm,
There isn't
right.
anything else to be done. And it leaves those that are left behind with even more questions than the other,
Absolutely.
because they're, what is it that I missed? What is it that I could have done?
Right.
You know,
There's a
why
guilt.
didn't
Yeah, there's that
that's
guilt
there? But
associated.
what I want to say, and I really hate to leave off on this cliff note, is simply this: we have to become more aware. And there's a lot of things there for both the church and the in the
More
secular world.
sensitive.
Mental health awareness is there. In our communities, we offer mental health awareness training, mental health first aid mental health spiritual kit, the intersectionality between faith and mental health. At the end of the day, whether you believe it or not, when we talk about suicide, it's a permanent decision to a temporary issue.
It's a permanent decision to a temporary issue.
Right.
But sometimes they can't see it as temporary.
No, the issue is temporary, but to them it is reached finality.
Absolutely.
The thing about it is we have to be more active in ministering to them. And when I say
Mhm.
ministering, inside of their support, let's not minimize things.
Right.
There are symptoms when we
Absolutely.
see people changing, when we see oftentimes excessive sadness, or
Yeah.
all these
Depression,
major changes
discouragement.
in their behavior, even stuff like how they dress and behaviors and things. Those are things that we have to take seriously. We cannot afford to minimize or to laugh at, or to make light of.
Absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, whether it be anything, our charge as we close out of this would be for us to be sensitive to others and to ourselves and our
Exactly.
mental health, our spiritual awareness in terms of what is going on around us, what's happening on the inside of us. Because certainly we are now in climates that are just unapologetic. It's
Right.
like it's unapologetic, and it's almost the temperature or the climate, it's almost aggression against one another, and even aggression with ourselves and how
Right.
we feel. And so, the level of sensitivity, just as the atmosphere, if you want to call it that, has become more toxic, we've got to become more aware, more
Exactly.
sensitive, and more adherent to self care.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So I want to just end my part by saying this is just the first part of some other series that you'll see about this. Uh, it's important to get this out. And I need you to understand something today. Don't minimize the opportunity to hear information that is very helpful to you. Like and share this information with others. Uh, we gave you the numbers earlier. If it's domestic violence, 1-800-799-7233, and definitely mental health, 988. And for other information, I invite you also to go to our page, jrthicklin.com, destinybychoice.org. And there's a lot of other things to look for. You'll see some other forums that are be happening in our community as relates to domestic violence and mental health and suicide.
and I want to share this with you all. The word of God says, in the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, will keep your heart and your mind stayed through Christ Jesus. We've got to know that no matter what the heaviness is, what the disparity is, what the signs of depression, oppression, there is always someone that's higher than ourselves. I wanted to take a moment and share and discuss. Dr. Thicklin has to go. I got to go too, to be quite frank with you. But I want to thank you all so much for chiming in. I want to thank you so much for taking out time. And I want you to take time and make sure that you share this with someone. You're going to see me again, whether it be just me or what have you. But I want you to take a moment and just woosah. All right. I'm Dr. Collymore, y'all, and I'm over and out. I want to thank you all so much for coming in. Stay tuned because I'm coming back. Love you very much. God bless you. Share.
We're praying for you.